Why don't you tell us who you are and what you do?
Yes, I'm Phillip Wylie. I've been in security 21 years, been on the offensive security side for a little over 12 years. Just recently joined Phosphorus as ex-IoT security evangelist. So I do a lot of conference speaking. I'm speaking here today at 3:30.
Yeah, what are you speaking on?
Optimal offensive security programs.
Oh, sweet. All right, give us the TLDR on that.
Yeah, so one of the things I cover is the different types of assessment types, because some people don't understand the difference between a pen test, a red team operation, security vulnerability assessment, or vulnerability scanning. And so it kind of shares the difference between those type of assessments, as well as some of the common gaps you see in pen testing.
What do you think is the most misunderstood about those different testing types?
With red teaming and pen testing, the industry, and I would say it's probably more vendors with products that's driven it more, because there's a company out there that has red team in their name and their web app pen testing or bug bounty. It's not really a true red team operation. So I think vendors have kind of misled people. One of the things I've seen is you just really have to make sure you're on the same page with someone. If they're wanting a red team operation done, you need to make sure it's actual adversary emulation and not a penetration test. So knowing the difference. What kind of inspired the talk was when I worked at this large global consumer products company as a red team lead. I didn't realize until years later, the CISO that hired me didn't know what red teaming was. He had us doing like internal network pen test and not really red teaming. People on the security teams didn't know the difference between a vulnerability scan, a pen test, a red team operation. I create a single slide with the differences and showing them side by side so you can see the similarities and the differences.
I think you hit the nail on the head, because our industry mostly doesn't know the difference between penetration testing and red teaming. So what is the difference? If I'm going to get a red team engagement, how is that different than penetration testing?
Sure. With a penetration test, you're looking for all the vulnerabilities that can be exploited, exploit them, try to do any post-exploitation activities. With a red team operation, it's going in, doing something that would be similar to a breach. You're going in like a threat actor. With a pen test, everyone is aware that it's going on. In case there's an outage or issues, you can report it. With a red team operation, there's a control group. It's usually the CISO, maybe some management, usually not the blue team's manager, because you don't want to tip them off, because this is also kind of grading how well the defensive team's working, how well your people are reacting. One of the best outcomes I've heard of a red team operation was this company had an incident response company on retainer. There was a red team operation going on. The defenders detected it. They brought in the IR team to start investigating, and they called the CISO and said, hey, we've got an active breach in process. And the CISO said, no, this is authorized. It's a red team operation. But that's a good outcome, because with a red team operation, you're testing your blue team's response. It's not only the technology, it's also the people. Another thing to kind of look at it is people used to do disaster recovery and business continuity exercises to see how they could recover from some kind of disaster or some kind of issue that could take them out of production. This is a good way to test that, be able to test those IR plans. But one of the things is too, is you don't want to always do red team operations and not do a pen test. That's something to add additionally as your organization matures. With the red team exercise, you're only looking for one way in, what would be equivalent to a breach. There'd be a lot of other exploitable vulnerabilities that you may miss.
Depth versus breadth,
yes,
right? Everyone talks about that. It's awesome that you're narrowing in on the fact that a red team is testing your operations holistically as well, not just the technical controls.
Yes.
You want to evade the defenses. You want to do things that you know will not set off triggers and alerts, because you want to go low and slow, and you have a very specific objective, right? It's a targeted thing, which is a whole different operation, a whole different engagement than a penetration test where it's like, show me all the different ways that you can breach this company. What are the common ways that you usually get a foothold or breach in a red team engagement?
Like you mentioned, having to go low and slow, you can't really use vulnerability scanners. So you're having to do things like password spraying, phishing emails, and this really emulates more what you're seeing threat actors do. It's either some kind of malicious malware. One of the things I've seen as far as gaps goes, and I mentioned this in my presentation today, is people have gotten too used to using these canned automated phishing campaign systems. And all they're doing is testing for security awareness, how many clicks they get or who clicks on it, but they don't know what happens if someone clicks on malware. And you really need to know what happens when you click on malware.
The difference between are you educating end users with security awareness, or are you really testing the technical and operational controls of what happens? And I believe that's a huge difference, right? Because if you use one of those platforms that do the education, by law, they can't really just rip off logos and copyrights, and infringe upon that. Whereas your threat actors that are doing it and that are precision, don't care about that, right? They'll use FedEx's logo, they will impersonate things that they legally should not be doing because, well, they're malicious real-world threat actors. Give us a little teaser of why we should go to your talk.
So if you're on the blue team side or new to offensive security, I think it's a good way to learn, because one of the things I've learned over the years, I used to teach pen testing at Dallas College, did that for about 3.5 years, continue to teach workshops. But one of the things I've seen is a lot of things that is important to someone wanting to be a pen tester. A higher level version of that is good for folks that work on the defensive side or maybe management to better understand those type of assessments. Because say if you get a consulting company that maybe they don't have the best engagement managers or people quoting the pen test, they may not really go over the goals. So understanding that's going to make you a better consumer, whether you're managing teams internally or using consulting services.
Great feedback. Phil, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks.